54 years ago, I went to a dance at a place called Yanar, and there was this absolutely stunning 16-year-old in the room. And even here I am, 76 years later, I can still remember that person. That's my wife. We went out together and then we went our own separate ways. And then 40 years ago, we bumped into each other again and the journey began again for us. So today for me, and I've spent a lot of time with it and asking you guys, because you're special to Karen, is I want this to honour Karen for her putting up with me as I've walked through my brokenness in the last 40 years. And so I want to honour her and make this today very special. So we'll welcome you, Karen. What's the most common expression that she constantly uses? There you go. Yeah. Who's got filthy dog? Yep, there you go. There you go. There you go. All of us. Filthy dog. Over there.
And where did I learn that from? Your mother. Janine.
So where did the expression come from, filthy dog? Shane Morrison, that's right. Who said that? There you go, Shane Morrison. So would you like Karen to tell you the story how filthy dog comes? Because most people think that calling you someone as a filthy dog is an insult. But for Karen and her friends, it's not. Let her tell the story. Come on, Karen, tell the story. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up.
No, my knee hurts.
Okay.
So in the motor trade, you know, we just walk around all the time, and we did something, or we did something wrong, and we laughed at each other. We go, "Oh, you filthy dog," and it just stuck. And we just all called each other filthy dogs, and everybody would look at each other. She just called him a filthy dog. And the other funny thing was Janine, who used to work in finance, every time someone went into her office, we'd go, "Ah, there they go, into the sewing room again." And because I sold the aftermarket before they went into the finance room, they'd walk past my room and they'd say, "Do you want some cream to go with your jam?"
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, you might not get that. You get that.
Telling all the secrets, Karen.
Motor trade jokes. So the other thing is, what's the two favourite restaurants that she likes to eat at?
Hungry Jack's and McDonald's.
No, keep going. Long Paddock, who said Long Paddock? There you go. Long Paddock. So Long Paddock is one of them?
The stables.
No. And Effervescence. Effervescence. Effervescence, that's right. It's over there as well. So over there as well, let's say. What's the quirky thing?
Karen always takes a photograph of her food on Facebook.
That's right. So there you go, Esther here and there. Has anyone noticed that Karen has two things in her life? One's Facebook, and every time she goes to a restaurant, she takes a photo of the food. What's the nickname for ladies who sell aftermarket products in the dealership? Bingo! Does anyone want to know the story behind question 6? The reason the question 6, how that came about, was in the motor trade. There was a product, aftermarket products introduced into the motor trade for like putting in window protection, paint protection, all the other stuff. And it was a way for dealers to increase their profits. But how they did that is they would put very gorgeous looking ladies that a lot of times were inappropriately dressed. And the company that sold the product was called Ming. So most times a lot of the ladies didn't have much up here, but they had it certainly everywhere else.
Excuse me.
That's it. And so, and most of the salesmen really disliked the ladies, what they did in the motor trade. And Ming was the name of the company, the pioneers of this that sold the product. And so the nickname, oh, here comes the Ming mole, that's how it came about. So it was a derogative term, but it was also a nickname for the ladies.
Well, they were jealous because we made more.
That's right. What I'd like to do now is that I'd like to make some of the people their speeches. So to honour, there's 3 people in here I need to honour. Their birthdays are very close together. One is Karen Forbes, who you're going to hear from shortly. The other is my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law turned 92 yesterday. And Deb has got her birthday coming up as well. Okay, so there's lots of birthday. So the first speech that I want to have that we're to, and I'd rather like you to honour and respect her, is my mother-in-law, and it's basically for the first 10 years of Karen's life. So if you want to share.
When my first husband left me, I was living at Beaumaris, and Karen was only a baby, 8 to 9 months old. I was very lonely, and it was arranged for both of us to go back to my parents' home, which was at Edithvale, where I grew up. My mother, known as Nan, had a very happy, cheerful time with Karen, and I had to get a job to sustain us. Mum and I often shared a gin and tonic on the back veranda when I arrived home from work. Karen and I lived in a bungalow at the back of the house. Our neighbour, Bill Walker, came in to share a drink. He had his eyes on Mum. When my second husband, Les Grauer, came into our lives, he loved Karen as his own, and he had a handful to cope with when she became a teenager. Very strong-willed. Karen became friends with Karen Smutter, and they are still friends today.
There she is down there.
Thank you.
Well done, Mum. That was beautiful. Thank you.
Given the decade of from when Karen was 11 till 20, and I'm 9 years younger than her, so I was 2, so I've only got snapshots. It was a long time ago too, so but this is what I remember. I remember toddling after the 2 Karens, and they were heading out past the cow shed, and that was the first time I heard the phrase, "get lost." I remember her doing homework at the kitchen table, but there wasn't a lot of it. I remember her feeding the calves every night and driving the tractor on the farm. I remember that you were pretty good at the pogo stick, yes. in the car, like avoiding the cow poo because there wasn't many places to do a pogo stick. And I remember that you had a talent of staying upright on the worst roller skates ever. They were terrible. They had these strap-on things, like you left your shoes on. They were terrible. Yeah, they were. And I remember you vaulting onto old Toby, the horse, and I'm begging a ride for old Toby, but you just didn't want to come near me. And then you didn't pay any attention. I fell off onto my head. So that was the end of that. And I remember that you used to go off to Pony Club on Saturday mornings on Black Bess, and there was one day that you didn't come home, you were in the ditch. She'd thrown you on the way home.
I was coming on the way back from Geraldine Junction, and I was taking a shortcut, and somebody had strung 2 pieces of wire between 2 trees, and she hit the barbed wire and threw me back, and she landed on me, and she twisted my pelvis, and amazingly, we were 20 k's from home, and she walked. I crawled back into the saddle, and she walked me all the way home. Wow. So I ended up going to a chiropractor for 12 months, Vanderbilt, after that, in my hips. Yeah.
It was Karen's job to lock up the chooks at night. And my dad, he was so cruel. She used to tell her that the fox was going to get her if she didn't do it in time, and she used to put it off until it was dark, and then he'd make her go out in the dark, and he'd look out the door and he'd scream at her. She'd scuttle out really fast trying to avoid this mythical fox, and he'd scream at her, "Look out, the fox is coming!" And then she'd scream, like he did this constantly. I was bad.
I think I've learned to lock the chooks up.
Yeah, no, never. I remember you getting your first job at the Yanar General Store, but I think you got sacked because
I was giving out more money than they're paying me.
and we were banned from getting ice creams there when they hit the lofty price of 13 cents each. And I remember you started work at the photographic studio in Goodies Arcade. What did you do there?
Not much.
She modelled. And yeah, I remember you brought Minna home. You found her in the arcade or starving, and she was my favourite cat. And I remember you had getting ready for a date, and you'd lock yourself in the bathroom and come out with those cat's eyes and a beehive hairdo up to here, and the skirt up to here, and the legs up to the armpits. I think your armpits have dropped. And Dad chasing you around the table saying, "You're not going out dressed like that."
So you're undies.
And after you got married, you used to ring Dad every April Fool's Day. And every year he'd fall for it. And the year when you said you were the girl from the Maui butter factory and that his butter fat had dropped half,
We had a blue methylene test on him.
and he went purple. He was so angry.
He talked to me for a month.
No, he didn't. I don't think you were too pleased about having a little sister until you realised that I could babysit. And then she would ring up and say, "What are you doing on Saturday night?" And I'd think, I was never doing anything on Saturday night. Yeah, that's exactly right. And she'd say, "Good, you can babysit." And I was trapped. But that got me near Megan and David, so it was pretty good. And you taught me about makeup and skincare and all sorts of girly things, so I thank you for that, and I thank you for being my beautiful sister, and I hope you have a fabulous day today. Thank you. Bye.
I've been given the decade of 1975 to 1984. Given I was born in 1974, I'll do my best to recall what I can. I was one. I imagine Mum must have spent a lot of time changing nappies and being pregnant, with my brother David following me in 1977. I would say that these years were Mum's disco years. Every Saturday night, she'd be all glammed up and off to the club she'd go. I remember white blonde hair, smoky eyes, red skin-tight jeans and like a little red singlet. Yeah. When Mum wasn't dancing to Donna Summer and Gloria Gaynor, she'd be milking cows, feeding cows, chasing cows. A big contrast from Disco Kaz. One particular morning I must have been left alone while Mum went to milk the cows, and I decided to eat a whole packet of caramel top biscuits. I then proceeded to vomit them all up. Haven't eaten one since. Moral of the story, Mum shouldn't have left me alone with the biscuits. It would also have been during one of these alone times, typically when Mum and Dad were milking, that David and I would have hidden all the wooden spoons. If you were born prior to the 90s, you know what the wooden spoons were used for. A few years later, when we moved out of the old house, all the missing wooden spoons were miraculously found behind the sideboard in the lounge room. It was truly a miracle. One of my funniest memories of Mum would have been when there was an escaped prisoner and his hostage on the run from Pentridge. This is a true story. We'd been told that they were possibly on our property and to be on alert. My dad and uncle were going up and down the driveway with rifles. I'd hidden my Donald Duck money box in my undies drawer because no one's going to look there. Channel 10 helicopters and police helicopters were flying all over our farm. Where was Mum? Sunbaking topless in the front yard. It was the 80s, being sun smart wasn't a thing yet, and apparently neither were bikini tops. What do I admire about Mum? I admire her ability to make everyone around her feel comfortable and happy. When people first meet Mum, they always walk away saying how fun and lovely she is. That's a pretty great quality to have to make people feel good. Happy 70th birthday, Mum. I hope you have a great day, but remember to keep your top on. It's not the 80s anymore.
Is quite significant in our lives. This person was very instrumental in restoring our marriage. and I'd like to give her credit, and she's got something to say today, and that's Joan Allen.
There. Well, just hold all those thoughts of the topless, the sun, and doing all those other things. Now, I first met Karen and Carl in a group just like yourselves, except we were sitting in a church and they were sitting down in the pews, and there was all these normal people. And then there was this couple, and I said to my late husband, definitely got a pair of, a pastor and his wife in the congregation tonight, because we were taking marriage ministry seminars, so it was restoring marriages, and there was these beautifully dressed, well groomed, sitting there, just couldn't do a thing wrong, taking it all in. So I thought, they've been around for a while, but we discovered it was a bit different to that. We became very good friends, so much so that my late husband and Carl went out fishing lots of times, which left Karen and I very free to do lots of things too. So between it, look, we've got how many years later? 40 years. And they've been beautiful, beautiful friends, always doing, and giving, and, I've known them from the ministry side, and it's just been absolutely precious what they have sown into other lives, and I'm sure you're all here today because they've sown into your lives too. They're just very, very special people that give and give. And Carl suggested that I'd think of something funny. Do you know I couldn't think of one single thing that was funny, except when I started to think of, what do I think of you? And I started getting all these words, like perseverance, loving, faith. It just went on and on. I thought, have I got a spare toilet roll to fit them all on? There's so much of you that is just absolutely gorgeous, Karen, and for Carl too, that you have really, it just shows what you can do when you work hard at a marriage. And
I love it's hard to be hard, we'll be perfect in every way.
But to allow to be grown and you can see the fruits of it. It's not only the fruits of these two, it's the fruits in our lives too that they've sown into, and that's really special. And the families, and just bless you for your birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So it's actually been nearly 20 years since Karen and I worked together. But I can't believe people don't have funny stories, because that's all I've got about Karen is all the funny stories. From the moment I actually started working with her, I remember every Saturday morning we would duck out to the garage sales. We'd sneak out of work and then find all different treasures, and waltz back into work and hide our purchases like it never happened. But she wasn't actually just a work colleague. She was an ultimate prankster, always pulling tricks on everyone, just the master of mischief. I can't count the number of times I'd get halfway home before I realised I had a whole lot of balloons coming off my car from the back of the car, or I'd flick down the sun visor and all the confetti would come out from under the sun visor. There was one time that Karen actually put a slug on someone's chair, knowing that he was terrified of slugs. We were waiting for him to freak out when he saw it, but unfortunately he didn't. He didn't notice it, and he sat on the slug. And we soon found out that the slug slime is like glue, and it doesn't come off your pants. And he walked around for weeks with that stain on the back of his pants, and every time we saw it, we had to stop ourselves from laughing. Karen was also very, very good at her job. And often customers would come in and try and negotiate the price of the car for hours, trying to negotiate to get the best price. Then they'd meet Karen, and suddenly they'd be buying everything she suggested. After they'd leave, she'd rush into my office asking do you have any cream to go with the jam that I've just given them? You spoilt my speech before. I'd turn to her and say, why would you do that? And she'd say, because I can. Typical Karen. But beneath all the tricks and jokes and the occasional office chaos, Karen is actually the kindest, most genuine person I've ever known. She lights up every room she walks into, usually with a whoopee cushion or some kind of prank, but it still counts. So today, Karen, we celebrate you on your 70th birthday, and here's to many more pranks and tricks and laughter and joy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Carl, first of all, I want to say thank you for offering me the opportunity to bless Karen today. Alan and I met Carl and Karen about 20 years ago when they lived in Wheelers Hill in Melbourne. And because the things of the kingdom of God are extremely important to the four of us, this relationship has continued over many years. And even though we see lesser than this at the moment, it's really only because of distance. Karen, you're a beautiful person. I think everybody here thinks so. She is beautiful on the outside, but more importantly, Karen is beautiful on the inside. And my observation of Karen is that she loves beautiful things. She has a joyful personality that makes her lovely to be around. She is generous, forthright, and she has integrity. Life has given Karen, as it does with all of us, opportunities to learn perseverance. It's interesting you said that. I don't think any of us is born with a highly developed quality of perseverance, but we can learn perseverance, and I think Karen's life at 70 demonstrates that, Karen, you're a good learner. The scriptures teach that perseverance is a quality that is very important to God, so important in fact that he says those who learn endurance will receive the crown of life. So Karen, well done thus far. But it isn't over yet. No, the perseverance. Take heart, there will be more opportunities. However, the attribute that I most appreciate in Karen is her realness. For me, what you see in Karen is largely what you get. I love that. I really love that, Karen. I don't have to second guess her. To me, Karen is uncomplicated. I feel I can trust Karen to tell me the truth, and I deeply appreciate that. Thank you, Karen, for your friendship, your love, and your kindness over many years. And finally, to comply with Carl's request to share something funny. I don't really have funny either. I don't do funny well. I'll finish with this little poem though. I found this poem, which I think is a fitting reflection of Karen's personality, and I hope it will give you a little giggle and maybe a little pause for thought. The poem is called Two Frogs in Cream. Two frogs fell into a can of cream, or so I have been told. The sides of the can were shiny and steep. The cream was deep and cold. Oh, what's the use, said number one. It's fate, no help's around. Goodbye, my friends, goodbye, dear world. And weeping still, he drowned. But number two of sterner stuff, dog paddled in surprise. And while he licked his creamy lips and blinked his creamy eyes, I'll swim at least a while, he thought. Or so I've heard he said. It really wouldn't help the world if one more frog were dead. For an hour or two he kicked and swam. Not once did he stop to mutter, but he kicked and swam and kicked, then hopped out via butter.
So I'm doing this final decade, and I feel it's a real honour to do this final decade. Listening to a lot of you speak about how you've known Karen, I'm a little bit jealous because I really would have loved to have known you for such a longer time. But I'm really privileged to have her in my life. So Karen's actually my neighbour, And we met probably maybe 8 years ago at a mutual friend's house. But we didn't really connect again until maybe 5 years ago when I realised that they were living in our street, and I said, well, I'll come over for brunch. So they did, and I think the first thing I remember about Karen is that we shared a love of really good food. And she encouraged me to sell my preserves. So I make a lot of preserves, and she was my first customer and still probably one of my best customers. So yeah, that's kind of cool. So then we reconnected maybe 18 months ago to 2 years ago at a introductory meeting to the course Growing Deep and Strong. And the first thing that I was really taken by Karen's sensitivity and intuition to spiritual things. And at that point, we decided to connect. We had some, some challenges in our life, and Karen took it upon her to invest her time in my life, and that was such a blessing. We're still meeting, and I'm so blessed that she does. So I've decided to write down the top 5 things that I love about Karen, as I've got to know her in our time over the last 18 months. So the first thing, and you'll all agree that she's absolutely hilarious. Honestly, I couldn't come up with one single. I mean, there was lots, but I couldn't come up with one that to share a funny moment. So, but you would all agree that she's so funny, and she has this gift of being able to take every moment, any moment of life, whether it's difficult or good, and make it really funny. And I just find that just such a wonderful thing to be around, because laughter is healing. Yes, so yeah, you bring laughter, joy, and sunshine wherever you go. Second thing I love about Karen is her strength. I'm sure there's been some really dark moments in your life, but God has pulled you through, and He's been your anchor. And for me, that's been a real example of how to do life and how to do life well. The third thing that I love about Karen is her honesty and transparency. Now, somebody else said that she said that she was real. Yep, and that really resonates with me too. You are so authentic and real, and I can trust you with anything because I know that what I see is what I get. Yeah, and you're not afraid to admit if you're having a bad day. So, I mean, I get bad days too. So, honestly, Karen's probably one of the first persons that I would message if I'm having a bad day and feel like I can honestly say and not be judged. You're the real deal, and your authenticity has made you trustworthy and confident to me. You really are fearless. You're not afraid to speak the truth. But when she speaks the truth, she does it in love. Everything that Karen does is in love. And her heart is so sincere and pure. And you do it with so much wisdom and grace as well. And finally, I really admire your spiritual sensitivity and discernment. As far as I'm concerned, it's unrivaled. I've had the privilege of being in a ministry team with Karen at different times, and honestly, she's a force to be reckoned with. You are an example to me in that too. So to sum it up, Karen, you are fiercely loyal, loving, generous, faithful, and trustworthy. And I'm so blessed to call you my friend. Happy 70th birthday.
Hello everybody. Kaz and I have been friends for over 60 years. Although we don't see each other a lot, nothing changes between us. I met Kaz at Hazelwood Estate Primary School, and we were instant best friends. We would ride our bikes to Sunday school, but before we went, we would stop at the Yanar shop for a Blue Heaven Sunday. We figured half the money for God and half for us. One day when Nana Bundy was looking after us, we decided to take Mrs. Grauer's little blue car for a trip into Yanar. But we were laughing so much, we went into a small ditch. No damage. Yes. No damage, but managed to push it out and thought perhaps we'd better go home, as we were lucky as Nana Bundy was still asleep. Karen and I both had horses, so we would ride to each other's place and get ready for the big event every Saturday night, the Yanar Dance. I have lots of stories about the two of us and what we got up to, but perhaps that better be enough. Has always been a wonderful friend, and I love her very much. Thank you.
I love you too.
But somewhere in their teens, they discovered boys are more interesting than horses.
Now for my 3 minutes. So Carl actually said it in the beginning. I want to thank everybody for coming, and it's been very heartwarming, and I felt the love and the kind words that you've said. I can't believe some of them. It's just been amazing. So thank you all. So, and also to know that you've got friends from 60 years ago, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, and now is just amazing to think that you're all here. So a lot of friends from the motor trade, a lot of friends and a lot of church friends and a lot of other friends too, whatever you fit into, if you're fine by me, fit your bracket. So I didn't want to have a party because 2020 COVID hit and it affected relationships. Dad died and I discovered I needed a new knee. So Carl insisted I have a party, and I'm so grateful that he did, and he's certainly gone to a lot of trouble to organise it all. So thank you. And I just look around this room and I value and love every one of you. So thank you for making this day pretty special. Now, I'm not much one of speeches, but Esther, my girlfriend here, she put a post up on Facebook the other day, and I thought, how appropriate was that for me to read this out today? So I'm going to read it out. It is very special. And it says, I'm convinced that there is nothing more valuable than the gift of friendship. And there is nothing as priceless than the authentic connection with people. It's hard to find much else that brings more meaning than the joy of sharing life's moments with close friends and family. The most beautiful parts of the world can seem empty and meaningless in the absence of someone to share it with. Nothing seems to hurt the soul more than a broken relationship and as heartbreaking as the death of a companion. A fractured relationship can be soul-destroying, and the grief of losing someone can feel never-ending. The confidence to bare your soul to another person can be the most terrifying but rewarding experience. Knowing and finding those who can be trusted is like finding a needle in a haystack. If you have a handful of people in your life that you can be transparent with and authentically yourself, then you are truly blessed. And I am truly blessed because I have all these people, my friends, my family, that I love, and I know that you all love me too. So thank you all for coming today and making my day special. Thank you. You're the filthy dog.